the Todd Family YouTube video, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate if you jump on here live here on this Sunday night. Feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. Hey, everybody, go get Mama real fast for me, okay? Tonight, we're going to do a college football video. So if you have any thoughts, any opinions, any outtakes, or anything from this weekend's college football action, please let me know in the comment section down below. Good evening, Kevron. Glad to have you here. As always, had a lot of great games this weekend. Now, I'm not going to talk about the games from Wednesday and Thursday. I just want to close the door, but I think the board's going to be in the way. So you have to move the board a little bit. Trying to close my door so that I don't distract my son while he's trying to eat a late supper before bedtime tonight. So I am multitasking during my video in case you're wondering what I'm doing. Now, I mentioned Wednesday and Thursday's games, I think on Friday, or maybe I mentioned them on Thursday. So I'm not going to talk about those, but we'll talk about the ones from Friday night and the ones from yesterday. I think I saw that 9 ranked teams lost this weekend. Now, some of those ranked teams also lost to ranked teams, so you can't so much count those because yes, a ranked team lost, but a ranked team also won. But when two ranked teams play each other, somebody has to lose. But there was quite a few ranked teams that lost to unranked teams, and this was one of those weekends that make college football what it is, because there's always something that you don't expect. And I think I saw this morning that I want to say Indiana is 7-0. I think it was the first time since 19 something, or maybe ever. Georgia Tech is 7-0 for the first time since like 1966. So it's one of those, and Virginia is 6-1 for the first time, I think, since the 90s. So it's one of those years where we're just seeing stuff that either you've never seen or have not seen in a long time. I want to say Indiana is 7-0 for the first time ever, and Georgia Tech is 7-0 for the first time since 96. I could be wrong, but I think that's what I saw this morning. Hey there, Brielle. Happy birthday, Brielle, and ever how old you are, I hope this is the most prosperous and the best birthday you've ever had. And I feel real awesome that it's your birthday and you decided to spend some time here on Ref Brandon and the Todd family. Greatly appreciate that and hope you love this birthday. I know every birthday I have, I love because physically, I feel the way I felt when I was 21. And I know several people that are younger than me that have all sorts of issues, and I don't have any. I'm a very blessed man, and I know that every birthday I have, I should feel good for getting to spend another year in great shape and another year on this earth, because not everybody is that blessed. So hopefully you enjoy your birthday this year, Brielle. But back on Friday night, and I think I said here on the channel that Friday night football, it always seems like if there's a ranked team that plays on a Friday night, if they play anybody worth a darn, it always seems like it's either an upset or an almost upset. Friday night, we had 2 ranked teams go down, and both of them lost to unranked teams. Louisville beat Miami 24-21. It was by far the worst game Carson Beck's had as a Hurricane. He looked awful. Miami tried to come back, but it was too late. But Carson Beck was terrible. And then Minnesota beat Nebraska 24-20. to 6. Now Nebraska was only 25th, but nevertheless, they were still ranked. Also on Friday night, California beat North Carolina 21-18. Hey there, 1882. Glad to have you here. That only matters because North Carolina only has a chance to win one or two more games, and one of the ones they may have could have won was that game Friday night. Now they played a lot better than they played the last couple of weeks, but still, they're not very good. Hey there, Jacob. Glad to have you on here on this Sunday evening. Ohio State shuts out Wisconsin 34-0, and Ohio State looks like they're determined they're going to repeat, and nobody's going to stop them. And they're only giving up like 5 points a game. So right now it's hard to not make them your favorite, because when you got a good offense and nobody can score on you, it makes you pretty good. Hey there, 78. Glad to have you here. Indiana wins again in blowout fashion again. They beat Michigan State 38-13. Now, if you haven't heard, earlier in the week, or you could say last week now if you say Sunday starts your week, but earlier in the week, Indiana gave Kurt Cignetti a new 8-year contract. He's now making, I want to say, $11.5 million a year. But they did that because Penn State fired James Franklin. Well, one of the rumors was Kurt Cignetti was going to Penn State. I don't think he is. I don't think he was. I don't think he was ever going to. But Indiana heard that, and they panicked, so they gave this man a raise. Now his contract goes through 2033. He's 64 years old. So if he finishes his contract out, he'll finish his career at Indiana. Now, Kurt Cignetti makes it hard to like him because he seems arrogant, brash, cocky, whatever words you want to use. But it also, he makes it hard to not like him because he goes to a school that's never done anything in football, and in 2 years' time, with no 5-star players, he's got them in the top 5. So he's hard to dislike because he does things at programs that's never been done, but he's hard to like because his attitude just comes across as arrogant and smug. Texas A&M wins again. I still say they're the best team in the SEC. They beat Arkansas 45-42. Georgia beats Ole Miss 43-35. Now, I'm sure, even though Georgia put up 43 points, because their defense was bad, if they hadn't scored 43 points, they'd got beat. But I'm sure, even though Ole Miss to the first 3 quarters went up and down the field on Georgia, if they'd lost that game, it would have been Mike Bobo's fault. Alabama defeats Tennessee 37-20. Now, I was watching this game, and late in the first half, Alabama's up 16-7. Tennessee has a chance to score. They're on about the 1-yard line, but 9 seconds left, and they have no timeout. So if you run the ball and don't get in, the half's going to run out. So everybody knew it was going to be some kind of quick pass. Well, of course, Bama knew it too. Bama picks it off, runs it back, 99 yards for a touchdown, and I said, that's the game. Hey there, Marcus. Glad to have you here on this Sunday night. So the second half, the game was pretty much evenly played, but it was over by halftime. And now that Alabama continues to win, and Carson Beck had his worst game as a Hurricane, Ty Simpson's probably your leading Heisman guy right now for all you folks that care about the Heisman. Arizona State defeats Texas Tech 26-22. Now, I said before the season started, Texas Tech would go 11-1. That was their first loss, and I still say that's their last loss. They'll go 11-1, but Baron Morton, their quarterback, was out due to injury yesterday, and they were down in the fourth quarter 19-7, and they scored 2 touchdowns in about 4 minutes. Went for 2 on the second one to go up by a field goal. They go up 22-19, and they let Arizona State come right back and score and win the game. So now Arizona State has 2 losses. due to the non-conference loss. But since they beat Texas Tech, right now they're right up there, top of the Big 12. Hopefully, Marcus, the Falcons can pull it off. The Falcons so far this year have been Jekyll and Hyde, so it's hard to figure them out because that loss to the Panthers, they look like the worst team in football. But now the last couple of weeks, they've looked much better. But now San Francisco is a pretty doggone good football team, so losing to them is not the same as losing to the Panthers. But the Panthers have improved a lot, but it would have been okay if the Panthers beat the Falcons, 21-17 or 24-21 or somewhere along those lines. But in that game, the Falcons, I think they forgot to get off the bus. I mean, they looked pitiful in that game. Oregon destroys Rutgers 56-10. Vanderbilt beats LSU 31-24. They were a part of that stat I saw. They're 6-1, I want to say, for the first time since the 40s, I believe. But now, James Franklin won 9 games there twice, and it's the only time Vanderbilt has won 9 games in forever. But he didn't start out 6-1, but he did win 9 games. Hey there, Fammy. Glad to have you here. Georgia Tech beats Duke 27-18. And this was a game where you thought Georgia Tech might lose their first game of the season because Duke's played really well the last couple of weeks. And Georgia Tech's pretty much a one-man show. I mean, Haynes King is all they've got. And eventually you think they're going to play somebody that's going to be able to stop Haynes King in some way, shape, form, or fashion and beat Georgia Tech. But Duke couldn't do it. Yes, they are, Marcus. They are 7-0. I want to say for the first time since 1966, I believe is what I saw. They are doing really, really, really well. And I would love to see them go 12-0 just to see them go to the playoffs. I'm not a Georgia Tech fan, but it would be somebody different. Since the playoffs started, they've never made it. So it'd be their first time in the playoffs. But also, Haynes King is the toughest man in football. I don't care what they say he weighs. There's no way he weighs more than 205. And he runs the ball 20 times a game. Plus he gets hit on half his throws, but yet he's able to continue to get up and play. He's the toughest man in football, no doubt about that. But you would think eventually somebody is going to have enough sense to know that, hey, they're a one-man show. We can beat this team, but people can't do it. And are you saying you were born in 1960, Fammy? I'm not sure what the question marks are for, what you're asking me. Notre Dame beats USC 34-24. Oklahoma beats South Carolina 26-7. South Carolina continues to have 0 offense, and people continue talking about Shane Beamer going to leave Columbia and go to Blacksburg, and I just don't understand why anybody, not just the Hokies, but anybody wants Shane Beamer. He had one good season, and that was last year. He went 9-3. Every other season, he's pretty much a 500 coach, and I'm not sure they go 500 this year. And in order to have a 9-win season, he had to have one of the best defenses that program's ever had, and Lenore Sellers had to have an exceptional season, and they still only won 9 games. I don't know what Shane Beamer has done to make anybody think he's a great coach. I don't see it. I've never saw it, and I still don't see it. So if the Hokies fire him, if they keep sucking, it's their own fault. There's somebody out there way better than Shane Beamer. BYU defeats Utah in a rivalry game that used to have a name, but just like the Georgia-Florida rivalry and the Oklahoma-Texas rivalry, they want to change the name of the rivalry, but those two teams absolutely despise each other. BYU wins it 24-21. You talking about plain? If you didn't see any of that game, BYU wore nothing but blue, and Utah wore nothing but red. I mean, both teams had the most simple, basic, plain uniforms you've ever seen. One was all blue and one was all red. Now, if my twins had watched it, they'd have loved that because my twin boys, one of them's favorite color is red and one of them's favorite color is blue. Missouri wins again. They defeat Auburn 23-17. Auburn was either tied or led the majority of this game and then lost it in double overtime. Auburn just can't seem to buy a win. It seems like all the bad things Hugh Freeze has done is caught up with him, and this year, every game they compete, and every game they have the lead, and every game they find a way to lose. Michigan defeats Washington 24-7. Virginia defeats Washington State 22-20. Texas, who looked like world beaters against Oklahoma, comes back to reality this week, and they win, but they beat Kentucky in overtime 16-13. Another ranked team loses when Memphis falls to UAB 31-24. I thought Memphis had a pretty good shot of being the group of 5 team to go to the playoffs, and that was their first loss, but I think it knocks them out. Cincinnati defeats Oklahoma State 49-17. Houston, probably the one team that continues to win that nobody talks about. They defeat Arizona 31-28. TCU beats Baylor 42-36. Northwestern shuts out Purdue 19-0. Troy defeats Louisiana Monroe 37-14. Now SMU beats Clemson 35-24. And I told somebody at work yesterday morning, I said, Clemson's going to get beat. I saw it coming, and it had nothing to do with Vizina playing quarterback. If Klubnik had played quarterback, I'd have still said Clemson's going to get beat. This is one of those years where if they play anybody worth the darn, they're not winning. But now Vizina had 2 plays where he just held the ball way too long. And on one of them, I can recall perfectly. The other one, I'm not sure. But on one of them, he held the ball way too long. And the defender was coming at him in the face. So there's no way he didn't see the guy and still held the ball and got sacked for a huge loss. But when it's your first career start, you're going to have 2 or 3 plays where you hold the ball too long. You know, you don't have that mental clock in your head when you have no experience or little experience. And on those 2 plays, he did bad by holding the ball too long. But outside of that, Vizina wasn't bad. I actually thought his passes looked better than Klubnik. But another game where the defense was bad. And I'm still not convinced Tom Allen's the answer because I know it's only been 7 games, but that's more than half a season. And to me, 7 games is plenty of time to fix the defensive issues. And I'm seeing the same stuff I saw last year. We still can't tackle worth a darn. And we still leave receivers wide open in the middle of the field. It's different if it's down the sideline and the guy outruns you. But when you've got 11 players on defense and you've got a receiver standing right smack dab in the middle of the field and nobody sees him, and that happens 8 or 9 times, that is awful. And it happened last year, and it's still happening this year. So far, I haven't seen anything Tom Allen's done. I know we hear great things about Tom Allen, and he may end up being great. But to me, 7 games is plenty of time to fix the issues you had, and they haven't been fixed in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But plenty of times yesterday where Jennings would just drop back to pass, and he was hobbled, and he was hurt, so you know he wasn't running. And he would just go back there and hold the ball and throw it, and you'd see a receiver standing in the middle of the field like he's the only guy on the field. And it happened over and over and over and over. And I saw that last year. The bad tackling that we've seen the last 3 years that everybody blamed Wes Goodwin on, I'm still seeing it. So I'm not so sure Tom Allen is the answer because all the issues I saw last year, I still see this year. And I know everybody wants to hate Garrett Riley, but I just can't be like Georgia fans. Georgia fans have turned their back on Mike Bobo so much to the point to where if Georgia goes out and plays and scores 51 points, but the defense gives up 56, most Georgia fans are going to say, fire Bobo, because they hate Bobo so much. You know, if you hadn't scored 43 yesterday, you would have lost to Ole Miss. But I guarantee you, most Georgia fans, had they lost that game, would have said, fire Bobo, even though Bobo don't coach the defense. Well, a lot of Clemson fans have gotten that way about Garrett Riley. They want to see Clemson put up 50 points every game, and I understand that. But I also know that's not realistic. Sure, you can put up 50 4 or 5 times a year, but you're not going to score 50 points every game. You're just not. Now, could the offense score more? Absolutely. But until your defense figures out how to tackle and how to stop leaving receivers wide open, I'm not worried about the offense. Because the offense can score 35 a game. And if you can't tackle, you're still going to get beat. So once we get the defense figured out, I'll worry about Garrett Riley. But when you can't tackle and you leave guys wide open, the offense doesn't bother me. I'm worried about the defense because I know there's going to be times when your offense is going to struggle and you're going to play a team with a good defense and you're only going to score 28 points. And if you score 28 points and you can't tackle and you leave receivers wide open, you're going to give up more than 28 points. And when that happens, that's not on the offense. In a high-scoring game where defense was optional, Coastal Carolina beat Appalachian State 45-37. And in a game that I don't understand, not the game, but all the talk going into the game and then it continued today, Florida defeats Mississippi State 23-21. And the reason why I say that is because we all know that Billy Napier has supposedly been on the hot seat since last year. Well, he somehow got retained through last year. And when this year started, like after week 1, he's on the hot seat. So you think after every single game he loses, he's going to get fired. Well, they continued to keep him around. Well, going into the Texas game, supposedly if he lost that game, he was fired. And of course, every time they have threatened to fire Napier, he's went out that weekend and Florida's won. Well, he gets threatened to be fired against Texas. They beat Texas. So this week, the talk all week long was Napier's going to be fired this weekend, win or lose Saturday. Sure enough, they went out, he beats Mississippi State, and then they fire him today. I don't know what Florida's doing. Napier should have been gone last year. For whatever reason, they decided to bring him back. And then they start out playing so pitiful, and you threaten to fire the man, and you don't. And then he starts winning, and then when he wins, you fire the man. And that makes absolutely no sense at all. I see if you want to fire a coach when he's losing, but then you're going to fire a coach when he's winning, and then you come out this week and say, well, we're firing him Sunday, win or lose. So you're pretty much telling everybody that he's fired Sunday regardless. Well, if it's Tuesday and you've already decided you're going to fire this guy come Sunday, why not fire the guy on Tuesday? Makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know if Florida knows what they're doing. Iowa defeats Penn State 25-24. UCLA is probably mad that they let the season start with Deshaun Foster because ever since they fired Deshaun Foster, they look like a whole different football team. They defeat Maryland 20-17. Hawaii is quietly playing some good football. They defeat Colorado State 31-19. In the battle of two small Georgia schools, Georgia Southern defeats Georgia State 41-24. Pittsburgh defeats Syracuse 30-13, and Stanford defeats Florida State 20-13. Now, Mike Norvell is supposedly the next coach on the hot seat because he didn't win a conference game last year, and now so far this year he ain't won a conference game. If they go 0-8 again this year in the conference play, I know his buyout, I think, is like $58 million or something like that. but you're going to have to fire the guy. You can't be, a traditional powerhouse like Florida State and have a coach that goes 0-8 in conference 2 straight years and not fire the guy. So now their win over Alabama is starting to mean less and less because they look terrible. I mean, they look awful. I thought they were a 6-6 team. I still think they somehow get there. But one of the games I thought they'd win was Florida. Well, now that Florida's fired Napier, I'm not sure they get that win. So they're going to have to win a game somewhere. I didn't think they'd win to get there. But after a 2-10 season last year, I thought that 6-6 was a big improvement. But when they started out 3-0, I was like, well, I'm wrong on Florida State. But I thought it was wrong on them being better than I thought. Now I'm not so sure that they're not worse than what I thought. But any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What do you call an attractive monster? Pretty scary. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.